you're not going to be stuck with just me today. I got my gorgeous friend here, Kathryn. I brought her along to cheer things up and also teach me a few things. Like, she doesn't even know what we are about to do here, but she's like, yeah, I'm going to come and hang. So there are two reasons, Kathryn. So one is you're going to see over the next hour, like I said, an old man desperately trying to prove that he still belongs and he can hang with the cool kids. So bring some styling elements into native apps, and also I would like you to code review, as one does live on the internet, somewhat shady things I've been doing off late. So you can advise.
I'll do my best. I'm here. I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's rock. Before we start all that we have to talk about, though, just a quick word here. Today's .NET Dev Show is also, proudly brought together by folks at Visual Studio Live. They put together some wonderful events all throughout the year. You can do all virtual things. They have, webinars and training sessions all throughout the year. But the real benefit is joining us for in-person events. We did one in Las Vegas last month. The next upcoming one is coming up in Chicago, Windy City. Springtime should be nice, end of April. And then more, virtual things, and then Microsoft HQ Redmond coming up in early August, and then Orlando, which is one of the biggest shows, coming up in November. So come and hang. If you are, are in the market for learning .NET, what's the latest and greatest from Microsoft in the ecosystem? Come and learn. They are usually great speakers and wonderful content over 5 days, so you can mix and match and make the experience exactly how you want. I have been an attendee. I speak at a lot of these things. It's a really good show. Like, don't mind this guy. Other than that, everybody else is pretty solid. And if you are coming to any of these shows, they've provided us with a nice little promo here. So use that promo code. It's going to get you quite a bit off from the price to come and attend Visual Studio Live. So yeah, just a quick word to come and hang out with us.
I was about to ask if you were going to get to go to Chicago, and then you answered my question.
Yeah. All right. Let's start with CSS. Kathryn,
we're starting at a very high level.
Very high level, like Google CSS. Like I use Bing, so it's different. You come from a design and an advertising, maybe a little bit of background, but CSS is how people style things for the web, right? But what else do you think CSS is used for?
Why did that feel like a trick question? Yeah, absolutely, for styling. Also, honestly, for responsive stuff, for accessibility in terms of media queries are now being used for like prefers light or dark mode, prefers transparency, prefers reduced motion. So in addition to all the actual styling, you can actually do a fair bit of customization as well, as far as the user experience through CSS as well. Was that the right answer?
Because I was looking through this timeline just before we got on. I mean, we've been doing this for like 20, 30 years now. CSS1 apparently was standardized in 1996. So here we are, 30 years down the line, and we are still working through. And lots of resources to learn. Now, I mean, it's not just for web apps, though, right? I mean, if you were doing like email marketing or any type of, advertising, would you still use CSS?
Actually would. Yeah. I did email marketing actually for a while. That was my bread and butter for a few years. It's a tough world out there. Yeah, pretty much anything on the web. If there's HTML involved, there's CSS involved.
So, plenty of investments in CSS where you might be styling things for the web or any other purpose. Can you repurpose that styling for native apps? That's kind of what we want to get into. But before that, I also have a life-changing question here for you, Kathryn.
All right.
Are you okay with XML? What are your thoughts on XML?
I don't know that I have any. I haven't used it much.
Okay. Are you cool with HTML? You have to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that extension, like HTML is a type of XML, right?
Okay.
Essentially, it's tags that have special meanings.
Cool.
So I'm going to, extend that to say you also love XAML. since you like HTML.
Yeah,
A bit of a stretch.
100%. I
Uh,
think yeah, no, I was like, "Feels got me here." What? Yeah,
I
correct.
just roped you in. Yeah, good to see you here, folks, Phil and others. So yeah, a bit of a stretch, but once you learn one, I think you can do them all. So let me take you into our world of XAML. So XAML stands for Extensible Application Markup Language, and it's nothing new. We've been doing this for 20 plus years as well. XML is bad. HTML is good. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not. Oh, XHTML was weird, and
What is
then you
that?
and then you did some styling on XHTML. I had a gig where I used to style like legal docs, which came to us in
Ooh.
XHTML with some styles that you slap on top of it. Yeah, fun stuff. But this idea that you can write XML like things to describe your visual tree, that's nothing new. We've been doing this for ages. HTML is clearly for web and everything else, but in the native, sort of the Microsoft world, we have had XAML, which is essentially XML, but with special meanings, and special tags have special,
Okay.
meanings in how you visual tree you paint the visual tree, and you have some tooling around the whole XML document. So you don't have to, like, some folks will go to the length to say XAML was not meant to be handwritten or human readable. That's a bit of a stretch. I mean, I am fine writing this by hand. Yes, it gets a little verbose, but so does HTML, right? If you're doing it all by hand. Yeah. So this has had a checkered past, an interesting past, and it's still going strong. Actually, it's open source. Full writes XML by hand, XAML by hand, as one does. So this kind of started back in 2005-ish timeframe. There was a desktop technology called WPF, which is where this started, and then that evolved. So we have had like Silverlight, where we wanted to do XAML on the web. That didn't end up very well. Then we have had a few versions of Windows, where you wrote Windows apps with XAML. We did like a universal Windows platform. We did WinUI, which is actually still to this day the latest, Windows stack for writing desktop apps. And then we did Xamarin, which was kind of a different dialect of this for mobile apps. So the point is, like, no one team owned XAML. Like wasn't like a W3C type thing. There wasn't one organization that
There are new
kept.
standards is what you're telling me?
No, there are standards within pockets. So there are a few dialects of XAML, which makes things annoying and interesting. But the Windows XAML is a little different from the mobile XAML that we write for Xamarin, or now .NET MAUI. Silverlight. I said the S word. We got to say it once every show. So this has come a long way. Each of the stacks is open
Mhm.
source. So this goes to a lot of different places. You can write native Windows apps, native Mac apps, and iOS apps, and Android apps. So, I mean, it's there. It's not going away anytime. Older people like me tend to like XAML a lot more than younger folks. But I mean, just look at this stuff. This is not hard to understand, right? Yes,
No,
it can get verbose, but you understand what's going on. These are just like XML tags
I say it
with.
honestly doesn't look that different than, like, JSX in
Yeah,
React. So
exactly.
it's all
This
just
is all the same. It's
syntax.
like syntactical
Yeah.
sugar. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there are magic strings, but the real power of XAML is in the ecosystem, right? So each of those tags have special meanings. Then we have built data binding around it. We have built navigation stacks around it. A lot more frameworks to kind of help you out. We have a pattern called model view model that works very well with XAML code bases. You can also do MVU patterns, model view update. So this thing is rich, and it keeps us productive, also keeps our jobs in some ways, job safety. So this is here to stay. And we just got Kathryn to say that she's okay with XAML, right?
Love it. Biggest
Yeah.
fan.
Now then comes .NET MAUI. You may have heard of this thing from me because I talk about this a lot, and others talk about this a lot too. This is the evolution of Microsoft's essentially cross-platform strategy. So this lets you write .NET. You don't have to do XAML if you are not okay with it. You can do all things in C# as a language. You can define your visual tree entirely in C#. That gets verbose too. Like this is kind of coming from the React to maybe native world, or like the fluent style of describing your visual tree. It will get verbose, like no matter how you do it. But you can do, Blazor, you can do Angular, React, like however be your front end. This is essentially a platform for you to write .NET and then bring it to iOS or Android or Windows and Mac. So this has been around for now. Maui is not Maui style. Yeah, that's kind of what we're getting to. So how do you style Maui apps? So let's dive into this.
Feel like I'm creeping in on Alyssa's
Um,
territory. I'm doing JS girl in a .NET world kind of stuff over here.
no, we'll bring in some CSS. Okay, so here's what we got. These are taking us into videos. Let's actually dive in. I'll show you where things begin, and you can tell me your thoughts on where things are. That's an existing project. Close this folder. By the way, this we can do all of this in command line, so you don't need any particular tooling like Visual Studio, which used to be the scary beast that, like, coming from the JavaScript world, like, do I have to learn Visual Studio? No, it's all cool here. So I can check which version of .NET I'm running. I'm running on .NET 8, which is the underlying foundation of what's running our apps. And then if I do, let me actually go into a folder because I would like to keep things there. Yep. So if I do a .NET new, I think it's list for all the templates. Yeah. So these are all the .NET templates, kind of like, npx create React app or, ng new, whatever. So these are all the templates. These are the same templates that are used by Visual Studio to spin up and, spit out a project for you. So nothing new going on here. So let's do a new directory. Let's do Maui with CSS, right? Ew. Sorry. I'm trying too much of a shortcut. Let's do Maui with CSS, and let's go in this. And if I do a .NET new, not you.
Ew.
Yeah. So the one that I want to pick is this one. It's just called Maui. I'm not even doing Blazor or bringing in the web stuff. Let's just do native stuff for now. .NET New Maui, that's how quick it is, and I have VS Code in my path, so I can just do code dot. That brings it up, and we are up and running. So this is a .NET MAUI project, everything out of the box as it was intended. This, by the way, is VS Code, and for Kathryn and all of the JavaScript folks are very comfortable in this. For those of us coming from Windows or Visual Studio, we like to have this thing called a Solution Explorer, which is kind of essentially a smarter way of showing your app. It doesn't show all of the project things. It shows your dependencies in a certain way. So, I mean, I don't need it. I'm fine looking at the flat file structure. But this one here, I will point out, like, Kathryn, what are some of your favorite extensions? Like this one, I cannot live without. What is it called? This one, the material icon theme. This is so nice because they have icons and they identify almost every type of file that you can throw its way. So
Well,
that's pretty good.
we've got our own extensions in VS Code that we
Yeah,
use
yeah.
pretty often. Our own being, of course, Progress, Telerik,
Yeah.
Kendo.
So me coming from the .NET world, I used the Blazor one. I used the Maui one. I'm guessing we have similar ones for React or
Oh yeah,
Angular.
React and Angular have extensions as well. I use those quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm at the risk of starting a fight in the comments. I'm amazed you don't have like a theme on your VS Code. You just
Oh boy. Yeah, I roll with the basic. Yeah.
man,
I
that's
don't
why
have
that's
themes.
I think that's the first like extensions that I install. Was like,
Yeah. No, I roll with the basics. Like sometimes, like if
mm,
I'm looking at two code bases, I'll change up the colors just to identify. But I know like Alyssa goes all crazy. Chat room is asking, where is Alyssa? It's too early for Alyssa. She's like an hour behind us.
yeah, I was gonna say, Alyssa,
Uh,
to the best of my knowledge, is at home having a coffee,
Yeah.
happy.
Well, I mean, you folks came back from NGConf last week, which is, takes a little bit of recovery, I'm sure.
It was yeah, it's
Yeah,
the first time I went. It was a bigger, busier conference than I was expecting. We had
yeah,
5 people at that booth, and we did not take a breath.
nice, nice. Foolish Time, why are you saying Visual Studio doesn't work on a Mac? It does. It does. Well, Visual Studio for Mac, which was a whole different IDE, that's eventually going to retire
Right, I was
this
gonna say, I
year.
thought that was getting depreciated. I
Yeah,
have VS
yeah, it
Code
is.
on Mac, and that's
Yeah,
fine,
VS
which I
Code
know is
works
different.
just fine. Yeah, it's different. It's not a full-blown IDE, but I mean, I have built full apps with VS Code. So yes, some things are lacking, but
Yeah.
they're churning. They're trying to build up those features as quickly as possible. Okay, so you get a .NET MAUI project from scratch, and here are some things that may be foreign to you, but there are also some things that are easy to get on board.
Can
Kathryn,
you
can you see the
I was literally about to ask if you
the
could zoom in a little. Perfect.
okay? How about that? Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so .NET projects have this .csproj file, which is essentially just a project configuration file. This is where we list out all of our dependencies and blah, 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 and
Okay.
it all just stays in one place. You don't have to, look at it if you don't want to. But these are some of the package dependencies. Red theme of rage. Yeah. No, I'm just rolling with purple here. So what you see is eventually it's going to do its thing about navigation, setting up some pages. Most mobile or desktop apps end up being, a collection of pages that you navigate in between. That's what it is. So
Mhm.
this one here out of the box gives you like one page and one page only. So this is XAML, right? So
Okay.
this is saying, hey, this is a content view or a content page. I have a vertical stack layout. I can do flex. I can do grid. I can do any number of things. I have an image. I have a label, and then whatnot. So just a little bit of XAML to get started with. This is not hard, right? This is
No,
essentially
this
XML.
this seems pretty approachable. It really
Looks
doesn't
pretty
seem actually
approachable.
that
Yep.
different
Yeah,
than what I already
and it has a code behind if you want it to do certain things while that page is coming to life and so on.
Mhm.
Now, here's something that let's actually run this, and then we'll get to this. So this is a brand new project. I can do a command line run as well, but it already recognizes that, hey, this is a MAUI project, so these are the places I can run it. I can run it on a Mac, Catalyst, or iPads, and iPhones, and Androids, and whatnot. So let's keep
That's
it to a
cool.
Mac. It's local, so I'll just run it here. Da-da-da. It's our first build, so it's going to try pulling down all of your dependencies and fire it up. Takes a second.
You get a question in the chat while that's
Yeah.
running. Does go ahead.
Inherited dependency. Yes, it does. Yeah, absolutely. It does. We'll get into that. Yeah. So this one here is the native or the default experience that you get out of the box, like a hello world thing. You get the .NET, bot, and you get a welcome message, and then you have a button that you can click, and it's a counter.
It
Yep.
just increments, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So kind of like very much like Flutter in a way. They have a similar, hello world experience. So this view here is painted entirely in XAML based on that markup. But again, you don't have to write XAML if you don't want it to. You can make it all Blazor and other things. But here's how this first view is coming to life. So to answer Fool's question and to kind of get into this, the default template actually throws in a few things. So here's the markup for the view. But if I look into my resources folder here, this is one of the benefits of .NET MAUI. Everything is shared. So it's truly a single, shared project between iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac. So those platform resources are also here in the platforms folder. So if you wanted something specific for iOS or specific for Android, you can always drop in and do that hit there. But for the most part, you want to, stay cross-platform if you can. So in the resources, your fonts, your splash screens, your icons, your images, everything can be shared, which is really a nice thing.
Yeah.
But in there are also styles. So these are things that are being used to style the visual tree. So if I look at the app XAML, which is how the app starts up, it's binding up certain things called resource dictionaries, which is essentially let me read a file and understand how you want to style things. So that's where it's pointing to these two files, like there are colors and there are styles. So if I look at the colors file, this is also XML. So everything is XAML, but it's kind of
Hmm.
XML here. So this is saying, hey, here's my primary color for the app. Here's my primary dark text,
Okay.
secondary colors, tertiary colors. So, think of this as your rudimentary design system. So these are not we're not in CSS world yet. This is all XAML and XAML styles.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this is not hard to understand, right?
No, no, it's
Um,
like CSS variables,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. CSS variables, and I can refer to these things with their, friendlier name in my
Yeah,
code, so
yeah.
I don't have to refer to the hex. And there are certain brushes, and you can add to this to your heart's content. Now, this one here is also called styles, and this one here has to do with the individual visual elements that you put on your visual tree. So labels, text boxes, drop downs, grids, anything you can think of. That all is styled here. And it already has things like for a button, like here's how a button needs to look like, and they are already bringing in some app theming. So if you switch from light mode to dark mode, it switches the text and the colors automatically. So that's pretty
Mhm.
nice. So it has these like visual states, which is like, is it depressed mode? Is it like not depressed as in depressed, but somebody
Yeah,
gets tempted.
has it been pressed? Yeah, not
Yeah.
is it having a
Um,
hard time right
is
now?
having a hard time.
Yeah.
So every UI element that you can think of that comes out of the box has a style here, right? So as the app is starting up, it's actually reading this file and trying to figure out how to style these things. So
Mhm.
folks might not sometimes notice that there all of this styling is built in. So if you're not using a checkbox, take it out because it's actually reading this and holding it onto it in memory that you don't need. So take out anything that
Mm.
you don't need once your app is ready. So this is how we style things. And how do you feel about this first up?
This is weird.
Uh,
This is a weird way to do it.
why do
But
you say that?
because you have to redefine, um, for every thing, right? Like, it feels like you're redefining the text color in every single element, right? Can you not
No, you don't have to. So here, let
I'm
me
not phrasing that well, but I was thinking like, right, like in CSS, right, I could say like, H1, comma, H2, H3, H4,
yeah.
and I could set all of my headers to have the same color.
Yep. We
Whereas
can we,
like,
we can do all of that.
okay,
To answer like Fool's question before, like any type of inheritance, class names, that's all supported. So
okay.
if I take you in here, these are styles. So this is how you define a style, like a label style. There are explicit styles where I can say anybody who has like this particular class name, color all labels that way. I can do inheritance, like in implicit styles. I think eventually gets to like anything within a stack layout. Like I want all entries within a stack layout to have this particular style.
Weird.
So it
Hmm.
flows up and down, and it stops like at a page level. So that gets the most precedence if you are explicitly saying, but otherwise it's going to come down from the base styles all the way down. Does that make sense?
I think so. When you say it flows up and down, do you mean you can set like parent style? Because CSS, of course, is all cascading. That's
Yeah, yeah,
that's the C.
yeah.
Does this ever go? Do you,
I mean, it flows down more so, but individual child elements can say, no, I don't, I want to
yeah,
defy my inherited things. I want to do my own thing. So yes, you can.
yeah.
So you can, really define a style of a button that you want to define all across your app. Then, you're building up your own design system, then, have at it. So this does pretty much everything I think that CSS does, and it tries to cater to flex layout type things or material type
Mm,
things. So you can do whatever you want with it. It's a starting point, and you can see like here, like I don't have to define. So I can have a base style in my design system. So I could say
mhm.
maybe I'm creating the same type of web app like 3 times for serving 3 different orgs in my company, and they all want different styling. So I can have a base style, and then I can extend that and I can do custom things for each one. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. CS is great because it is cascading until you don't want it to cascade. Yeah, no, I mean, you can stop it. You can
Yeah.
the last one takes precedence. Yeah.
The cascade is great. You just gotta ride the wave, man.
Yeah.
You just gotta get comfortable with it.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is pretty well, laid out. You can have all of your things coming down dynamically. You can share between apps. So I am on board with everything that they are doing. You can do animations and other things with that.
Hmm.
So a lot of things have been, kind of thought through. But then you scroll down and you see this styling apps with CSS. Yeah. All right. So we want to bring the cool kids in, and actually, one of our good friends. See if I can type this right because I was looking at this yesterday. Leo Morris wrote a wonderful article for us, and I think she does a better job of boiling down what this all means. So yes, CSS is welcome. You can style XAML with CSS, and that's saying something because it's meant for all three people in the world who who want to do this. Yeah, because they're money takers. Yeah, that's unfortunately the reality, right? So
Yeah.
folks to come from CSS, they want to do web stuff, and that's fine. So, like, think about this: like, you have an email marketing team, or you have a web team that's using CSS. All of your brand assets, everything in your design system is already in CSS, and now you're being, asked to build a native app, and your question is, can I reuse some of the styles? That's where it belongs, right? You can bring over some of that and
Yeah.
start reusing, with a few caveats, because not everything works.
It's not
And
really meant to do this. It's right. This sounds
yeah,
like kind of a bandage solution for like
yeah, so not everything works, but it's a start. Okay, so if we go through the docs here, you'll notice the things that they talk about. So consuming a style sheet, that's pretty easy. We can just load it up and have it local.
Mhm.
I can do like C data. You don't want to do that because that's like explicit and like in the line inline styling. You
Okay.
can load it up with a C sharp thing. Now somewhere down here they talk about the things that you cannot do. So we'll get into the different ways in which you can style. Most things are supported, but this is going to disappoint Kathryn here. But a lot of things here, but what's not supported? Oh, they have some Maui specific styles. Did you realize that? So we are now doubling down on, we're extending CSS to make it work for our, so these are our styles, right? But then colors, thickness, where was that? Maybe Leo Morris talked about this a little bit more. What's not supported? Okay, so no
Oh, that
variable.
is a bummer, actually. But I guess you have an alternative, so it's not like you have no variables, you just don't have variables in CSS. You have to
Yeah,
switch 'em over into that.
and actually, I was looking at another thing that somebody wrote up that I found interesting, because like, you don't have to do CSS if you are at a higher level. What if you wanted to do like SAS or less? So all of
Right.
that is also fine, but you just have to bring that pre-processing, JavaScript, Node.js goodness before it actually gets to a point of rendering it, right? So you'd have to give it a CSS. So it's so part of
Right.
your like build pipeline thingy. So who's this? Stephen Kennis. So Tailwind. How do you feel about that?
I'm not a big Tailwind person, but I'm
Oh,
not
good.
there's some people I know that are passionately against it. I don't know if you
Yeah,
ever heard Ed's particular rant
I
on
know
Tailwind.
Ed's against it. I know our good friend Chris DeMars doesn't like it, but a lot of folks do.
A lot of folks do. I'm
Yeah,
neutral
so
on it. I
yeah,
don't it's not
here
what I
is
reach for, but I see
yeah.
why people reach for it.
Yeah. So here's a post on using Tailwind with .NET MAUI. So essentially, what's being done here is, bring in Tailwind like NPX, and then somewhere down here, like, you do a little bit of pre-processing before MAUI gets to it. So
Right, so that by the time
it,
Maui's grabbing it, it's just
yeah,
the
it's
whatever
just
compiled
CSS.
CSS file,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So yes, we do support most things in CSS, but not all.
Mhm.
So let's tinker with this a little bit. Where was our code? Okay, so this is our style dictionary, and let's say we bring Kathryn into this, and Kathryn is like, I hate that XAML style. Let's do CSS. All right, so let's do CSS. So we're going to go into our styles, And no, I didn't want a folder there. I wanted a new file. Let's go do CSS styles.css, right? Not everything that's in the docs is actually working out the way I wanted it to do. So let's go look at how Leomari starts out. I think that's kind of the easiest way. So let's say you have some styles here. You have to mark something as CSS, which I think it automatically does. Like it's a build asset of the type MAUI CSS. And this is what we need essentially. So on any page, you can bring this in. So let's go to our main page. So this is our content page. I have my vertical slack layout and other views in it. So I'm just going to say that. So that's formatted badly. So let's fix that. And here it is, like style sheet. Source is, go to the root, find resources, find styles, and I called it CSS styles, right?
Yeah.
That, right? So that's all it needs to pick it up and read that file. However, this is probably at a page level. I was trying to tinker with this yesterday, and when you try doing this, like ideally what you should do is there is an app XAML.css, which is, or app XAML, which is kind of the base. This is not a page. This is kind of the app wide thing. This is where it's reading up the resource dictionaries for the XAML styles. This is ideally where you also want to have the CSS. So it's,
Right. So
app
you're applying
wide.
a global. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
that one kept giving me errors. I can
Hmm.
try it again. Maybe I was doing something wrong. But let's just try this for a second and make sure we didn't break anything. So first up is like let's do a vertical stack layout. So let's go back here to copying and pasting code because that's what we do the best.
That's my
Uh,
forte. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, this is also new, and you're not going to like this. There are certain special things we do. Those are marked by a special character, which if you're using linting, it's going to throw up all over you. So you see how this content page is? There is like this,
Oh yeah, a little
character.
carrot.
Yeah, that says go do this special thing. So
Huh.
just to be aware that it's not going to like that if you do. But I can get named things. So let's copy this, and instead of doing the content page, we're going to do the vertical stack layout. So we'll do this. And you can see like VS Code is already like, what the heck is that? So let's not do that. We'll just do a vertical stack layout, right?
So what does
Um,
that? Sorry, what does the little up carrot denote? I don't think I get
It
that.
denotes certain special base, like page level things. So I think, let's see if Geomers talks about it. Tags or types, base class selectors. So
Mhm.
these allow you to indicate elements in the visual tree that can be selected by a base. So yeah, it doesn't distinguish. The base selector character is specific to .NET MAUI. It's not a part of the CSS spec. So yeah, don't do
Okay.
that if you wanted to. Anyway, so just a vertical stack layout. Leomers likes pink, so we're going to roll with that. Light pink background color. And that's it. So we're just reading this and trying to paint all of this vertical stack layout pink, right?
Yeah.
So let's go run this for a second. And it's going to come back out. Oh, yeah, I can trust this. It's just a native app. So once you step into the native world, you have fun with all the native restrictions. Because like Apple and Android, they all have their
Oh,
peculiarities.
I
But
bet.
this works, right? You understand what's going on here. It's pretty simple stuff. However, like the moment I try doing this at an app-wide level, I was, at least was getting errors yesterday. So this is how we comment things in in XAML. It's just
Yeah.
like a forward slash. It's just kind of like XML.
Yeah.
So if I did what the docs said I should do, which is this. No, I actually already had that. So let me just copy this one over into the apps YAML. I already have a resource dictionary. So we're just going to do that. Resources styles that. So let's see if I was doing something wrong, or does this still work? Ooh, time flies when you're having fun or,
Yeah,
fumbling.
no errors. So,
Yeah, see,
nope.
this is what I was heading up yesterday. So again, like for the three people who need this, maybe it's not being supported the right way because like it's trying to clearly read that XAML file or the CSS file, and it's like I don't like this somehow. Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah,
probably something of a bug we can, take back to Microsoft. But for the time being, it's not working on the, app level. But I mean, I can also define like a, base page and have every other page inherit off that. In which case, I mean,
right.
essentially, I'm back
You're
at
doing the
this.
same thing, more or
Yeah,
less. Yeah.
essentially. But let's stick to this, one page and see what some of the things we can do. So, for example, I can say, so like this button here, for example, it has a name, right? And you don't have to name it if you don't want it, kind of like HTML. But if you do want it to have an explicit name in the DOM, then you can give it a name. So I can do stuff like this, where let me copy paste code again. Where's an example of let's do we can do a background color. I think it's like a hash that you do for named elements. So that's the base, like we did the vertical stack layout. That's the base selector, ID or name, right? So
Hmm,
here, the name has button. Oh, it's just hash, right? So
okay.
let's get this, and we'll go back here. We'll just say hash that. So only apply that style to anything in that view which has that. So let's do a background color of, what do you want? What's your favorite color here?
Give us like a light blue, maybe.
Light blue?
Yeah.
Light blue. Over pink? Sure. All right. So now we are choosing just do the button color, and this is the named thing. What else can we do? So we could refer to like all labels inside the stack vertical layout. So we could
Hmm.
do stuff like this. So it mostly is flexible enough. So we could say all, I think it's like this
Hmm.
label. So all children belonging to that thing. Let me check. Oh, you can do
Yeah.
class names like that.
I was gonna say
Child
that's at
elements.
least that's how it works when you're writing CSS for the web.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
unless it's different, then yeah, the
Width of images within the stack layout. Okay, so I don't need that explicit thing. This is where it's a direct child essentially,
Mhm.
child versus indirect child. So I don't even need that. So I want all the labels to be red. Why not? Pink and red and blue. Okay,
Yeah. This
that's
is
how we.
like gorgeous.
Let's start this up. Now this weight that you see is because like this is a new app. I didn't do anything else. So it's essentially doing a build for iOS and Android and Windows and Mac,
Mm,
which is why it takes a little bit of time. So I mean, when we are deving with our inner dev loops, like we'll turn off everything else, so the
right.
builds are faster. Okay, so the labels picked up their back. Oh, did I set them to red? The background
Mhm.
color, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The counter button was light blue. That didn't work.
So there must be something else.
Oh, you know what? You know what? You are absolutely right. There is something else because remember the XAML styles are still
Right,
there.
I was like, we must be setting the style
Yeah.
elsewhere, and then it's not overwriting. So,
So where's
oh,
the
that's good.
button?
Right, if you've got both styles, then I guess it
The
will
XAML
defer
styles
to
win
these.
for
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
for now. What a
All right.
threat.
We're just gonna whack the button style, and let's go again. Yeah, but clearly the label also had a style, but the my
Oh,
style
did it?
here won. Yeah.
Huh,
So I'm not sure why.
that is weird.
Again, you're not supposed to, like, this is not what God intended, that you're going to do CSS and the XAML
This
styles
is
together.
not what God intended. God didn't want any of this for us. We should
No.
never have been coding in the first place. Computers were a mistake.
Yeah. Okay, so you get the idea, right? It
Yeah.
works. If you must bring in some CSS that your marketing or your design folks are handing down to you, you have a way of kind of making it work, right? So you got inheritance, you got some named classes, you got some, things you can do. With me so far? So yes, I can do this in some ways, right? However, let me now show you the flip side of this. So if anybody wants to do this, like, so look things up, .NET MAUI styling with CSS. The docs are pretty good. They tell you all the things that you can do, but clearly,
Mhm.
like, this one is not working for me yet. But it's nicely marked in terms of, I think Leomar is also, like, her article does a better job of exactly telling you how to do things. And then types of selectors. Oh, here's a property reference of all the things. So flex layout, like, these are all the CSS properties that apply to
Yeah.
that. These are all the visual element properties. You can see, like, she breaks it down, like, for each of the type of visual elements, these are the things you can do, like color and fonts and margins and
Hmm.
padding. We also have some Maui specific ones, which are going to completely blow up your web apps if you do so. These are meant for Maui only apps. Yeah, so don't mix and match. So you can see, like, we have some Maui, dash Maui type properties and styling. The shell is essentially a Maui construct of, getting you some navigation. There's like you can get a hamburger menu, or you can get tabs at the bottom. So
Hmm.
for that, you have some specific properties. But I mean, it's fairly robust, but it doesn't work with certain things, as you can expect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Maui styling with CSS. If you were doing XAML styles, which is essentially what we just did here, right? We had some XAML and we tried, styling that XAML with CSS, and that's where we landed.
Mhm.
However, what if you were doing web stuff in your native app, right? So let's close this and let's flip over to a different one. So first up, Kathryn, have you heard of this thing called Sands of Maui?
Yes.
Okay, good. You're going to break my heart if you said, no, I've never
No.
heard of it.
No.
Uh,
What?
all right, so I'm an old man. I find specific things that are of interest to me, and I try keeping up on the news. And this is kind of selfishly a way for me to stay up on top of news. So we are up to 137 issues right now. It's a newsletter, right? So
Mhm.
every week, every Monday, you come out and you're going to see a blog post, unless I'm traveling or on the beach or something where I'm too lazy to write. But I try not to skip a week if I can. So, every week, 137 issues. So it's been roughly, what, a
Pretty
year
good.
and a half, more than
It's
that.
impressive.
No, two
Yeah.
years actually. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's been
'cause
ongoing.
yeah, yeah.
So every Monday, you get 5 pieces of news that are relevant to the .NET developer audience, and I put that all together, and out comes this newsletter. You can subscribe to it if you want, but who reads inboxes, right? Our inboxes, unless you're Kathryn. Kathryn is a
I was
zero
gonna
inbox
say.
person. Oh my God, you are something when it comes to your inbox.
I was telling Dan the other day, we weren't talking about inboxes specifically, but it was like, I either have to be so organized and everything's together, or it's a wreck and I can't find anything and I don't know what time anything's happening. And there's no healthy medium for me. So inbox
No.
zero, because the alternative is inbox
Chaos.
chaos.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you. I hope you can keep it up because it's a lot. So, anyways, I don't read emails. So for me, this is fine, but I would rather have it somewhat easier. So, which is why an app
You've just
needs to be
written off the whole medium, have you? No emails at
no
all.
emails for me. So I have been trying to build up an app. So let's go look into that. Now, one thing to note is when we are trying to show this type of content in an app. So behind the scenes, this is a CMS, right? So when we are publishing content, the core body of the content is HTML and div tags and CSS, but
Mhm.
it's all going in a CMS, and then you get the full page, right? So when I'm trying to bring together an issue in an app, I don't want all of this other junk, right? So I don't want the nav, I don't want the whole page. I just want the content of my blog, essentially.
Mhm.
So that's one thing to keep in mind, and that content is already pre-formatted. So I already have the links, I already have the images. It would be bad if I had to restyle this, right? And just, make it for too much work. And that in itself means I already have some CSS, kind of built in
Right.
that I would like to use. And in fact, like some of it is just baked into the HTML itself, so I don't need to do a whole lot. So let me show you, and this is where you can look at some of my suspect coding practices. Let's open up this one here. All right. This gorgeous app, this is going to blow Kathryn's mind. Like, I mean,
Ready.
she comes from a design background, but, this is going to be, oh my God type design. It's just me. There's no design help here. It's just me tinkering. So this gorgeous app is going to hit the app stores soon, and it's just going to wow everybody. Anyway, so when you start up this app, let me bring this up to you in let's do iPhone 15 Max. Why not? So let's do run and okay. You ready, Kathryn?
I'm ready.
It's gonna be so
I'm
bad.
braced. I'm
She's
excited.
like, my
I'm sure
eyes.
it's fine.
How did you do this? Why did you do this?
I
All
yeah.
right, so it's going to Xcode, talking and coming back with an app package, and then it launches eventually. No, did it fail? Oh, it crashed.
Oh.
Oh, this is great. This is great. Hold on, I kind of know why. So I'm going to turn off a few things here because I was trying to deploy it. That may have messed it up. Oh yeah, I know you crashed. All of the Apple fun of certificates and provisioning profiles make it super fun. Where am I deploying? This is not my phone, right? No, it's not. There. Let's try that again. It's thinking. Maybe. Oh, I have a bad crash. I don't know what I did. Okay, let's try debugging. What did I do? Because I was trying to deploy it for some ad hoc distribution.
Hmm.
And app GUIDs haven't changed. All right, let's start debugging. See where it's failing. If not, we can try it on a Mac. No. Ooh. Hard crash. All right.
Ooh.
Can I do a Mac, please? Pretty please. Where is a Mac?
Yeah, that was a mistake. You didn't say please the first time. You had to approach this with kindness.
I have messed something up because it's not even doing a Mac build.
Hmm.
Hold on for a second. I'm going to close. What did I open? Hold on. Go away. Go away. All right. That. Which product did I open? That. Okay. CS Proj. I have that commented out. Let's go to a view. Yeah, iOS build only. So that's my connected iPad, so I can deploy to a physical machine.
That's actually really cool.
As much as your simulators are nice, nothing beats on-device testing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not showing me the Mac, which is interesting. All right, let's try an iPad. See if it makes a difference. I mean, it's launching, but as soon as the app starts up, it's crashing for some reason.
And unfortunately, I'll be absolutely no help for you here.
This is the pain of native dev. Fuel Shamil is asking, Tailwind is different from Bootstrap. Do you have an answer for that?
Well, for first off, Bootstrap is older. Right. And so a lot of how Bootstrap was originally built was around this idea of like column-based design, right? When we were first trying to make things responsive for web. Bootstrap was one of the first ones. And that's why it's so popular and why you still see so much of it. Bootstrap built a bunch of, at the time, media queries that would let you snap things automatically um, into responsive ways. Tailwind is more focused on like predefined classes, and there's some of that in Bootstrap as well. Don't get me wrong, but more in terms of trying to think of the right way to put it. My understanding, having not used either super recently, is that Tailwind is more focused on the actual styling, and Bootstrap is more focused on structure. So Bootstrap will help you place elements, will help you snap elements to grid, will help you rearrange. Tailwind does some of that, but they also have a bunch of like color palettes and like stuff set up. And if I remember correctly, Tailwind all this part might be wrong. So feel free to tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. I think Tailwind eventually all becomes inline styles and Bootstrap remains like classes and IDs and stuff. So when it's all in the browser, actually, if you were to inspect it, Tailwind, I think everything just becomes inline on each element. And Bootstrap doesn't do that. But that I wouldn't put money on that one. So, but I mean, they both solve the same problem. That's kind of like I'm trying to think of an equivalent. What's the difference between React and Angular? They do the same
Yeah.
thing. They're just different tools to solve similar problems in slightly different ways. So, granularly, there's things they approach different at a high level way. They're both just ways of speeding up your styling and removing the work of writing CSS for folks that don't like to do it, don't want to do it, or that's just not their skill set.
Yeah.
Just fine.
Yeah.
You can't be good
Well
at
said.
everything.
Okay, so back on this app, I figured out why it wasn't showing on Mac because I had the Mac builds turned off. And now if I turn on a Mac build, I do see the Mac host, but I'm using a few plugins that are not supported on desktop yet. So they're going to blow up all over the place trying to get that to work. So I don't have to run this. I can just show you what I had to do, and then you can tell me all the things and maybe we come back and, talk through this again. But essentially, this is for iOS, I'm going to start with iOS first in the app stores, and then and I'm not an Android person. It's not
Me neither.
Android. It's me. I like my walled garden, so to speak.
It's
But
Android. I'm willing to throw stones if you're not.
no, Android is fine. It's just not my thing. Because for one, like testing becomes very difficult with so many different versions of Android, because that's the reality. Anyway, so I am not able to deploy this because I was messing with some of the certs. So maybe I did something wrong, because it all has to do with root certificates and trust. So it's not doing my builds right. But once this app is back to running, I can show you this maybe another week. So
Yeah.
here's what I was doing. So first up, the app starts out with a list of all the issues, right? Here's the list view. It's a lot of XAML. This is what people say. It's not meant to be human readable, because it's a lot, right?
I
And
see. Yeah.
yes, this is handwritten, but there are tools inside of Visual Studio that's going to help you write some of these XAML automatically a little bit. So once you get back a list of all the issues, once you select an issue, we go to a different page, which is, and it's carrying the ID with it, so we can pull up that particular issue, and that issue list comes down here. And here's the difference. I am bringing down some HTML content and I'm wanting to render it, but I don't need it to be XAML. So this is where, if you don't like to write XAML, you don't have to, right? So in this view, I don't have much XAML at all. All I have is like a busy indicator, which is like as the issue is being loaded up, because it's coming down straight from the cloud. So while you are looking at that issue being loaded up, you see the busy indicator, and once we have it, then we switch it up to the content. And all I'm doing here is using a web view. This is just a modern browser element to say, give me a web view. I have some HTML and CSS and JavaScript even to render. I'm not in my native world anymore, right? Just give
Mhm.
me your web content and I'm just going to be happy to render that. So that's what it's doing. So once we have the issue coming back from the cloud, I have this gorgeous thing called an HTML builder. It's a utility class that I've written because now it's a different game. Like now I have HTML, and if I wanted to have some CSS, I cannot just drop a CSS just like that because I'm not styling a XAML element. So the only way I could figure it out is in my styles. Styles, I don't have. I am using some Telerik UI, so I have some special thing for Telerik styles, but I don't have my CSS here because I'm not wanting the
Mm.
MAUI system to read a CSS like it does. I instead have it as a raw file, which is you can have JSON or anything else. But here is my little CSS. I want some links, and I'm still working on this. Like I want body, I want images to a certain size and width, and
Mhm.
then I have this utility which essentially reads the CSS file, which this may not be the best way to do it, but I
Mm.
essentially need it in memory. So here's my DOM builder, so to speak. So the actual content of each of the issues, that's coming down from the CMS, and that's just a blob of div tags and
Right.
anchors and whatever else makes up that issue, including images and whatnot. So that's just the core part of it. Now I'm building up the HTML around it. So I am doing a little bit of manipulation here with the viewport, which you might have strong opinions against doing that.
Right.
All I'm saying is, keep it to a certain scale.
Mhm.
User scalable is yes, but that's my meta tag on the viewport, nothing else in particular. And then I want to stick in some styles because I want these styles to be applied to every issue that's being rendered. So I don't want to rewrite that over and
Sure.
over again. So I'm just reading up a CSS. So essentially, I'm using a .NET Stream to go read a file that's sitting local and just load it up on memory and just like in here and be at it. So I didn't find a different way of doing this. Maybe I can show you another time once this app is running on exactly what it does. But it's just a placeholder so I can have a CSS. I can have some styling on the elements that are different from the web
Mhm.
versus on the app. So, you can use CSS in multiple ways. You could do straight up XAML styling with CSS, which we, looked at, but again, not many people do that. I wish it was more. I wish it was more, which is when it'll have more robust support. But you could also bring in CSS that goes because I was using CSS to style XAML. While that's a small use case, but CSS to style HTML, that's going to be your broadest use case. So you don't have to
Yeah.
use it
Mm.
just the way this is meant to be. So if I go into some of Kathryn's world of theme builder, if I can type theme builder. Let's do Blazor styles, maybe. And where are the docs? This is another article. I was trying to go into basic themes. Oh, that's the same
It
one.
is the same. I think that's linked though in like that first paragraph, so you
Yeah.
might be able to get to it from there. But
What if I could do this one here? So this is
there you go.
theme builder where you start with the design system. Do they talk about what you have to do for each individual thing, like Blazor versus React?
Yeah.
This is for Blazor. Da, da, da. So essentially, you're going to have to stick in that style, like in the HTML header section somewhere.
Mm. Yeah, I will tell you, I haven't ever
Um,
tried it with Blazor either. It's
So like this type of styling, you can get it on a native app as well. We in
okay.
fact have like Blazor templates with MAUI, so you're essentially rendering a Blazor app inside of a native
Mm.
mobile or a desktop app, and you can bring all of your styles. Maybe that's another episode where we start with theme builder. We
Yeah,
customize things like Kathryn customizes a few things for us from a design system. Like here's how the UI components need to look like, and then I bring it into a native app and still have the same styles. So maybe
that'd be
that's
fun.
another show. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So What are your thoughts overall, Kathryn, with CSS and native apps?
It wasn't when you first started showing me how styles were set up, I was a little bit nervous. I'll
Yeah,
admit. It wasn't as scary as I thought. It's interesting that you can leverage CSS, and it makes sense in terms of just trying to get the most out of resources that already exist, right? And for creating continuity across like a web app and a native app. I totally get
yeah,
it. I also get why that's not the ideal, right? Like even just playing with it for a little bit, it's like, yeah, I think you'd probably fight
yeah,
with this. I think that use case where you were showing where you were kind of pulling in, you're just displaying some HTML and styling that way. That's
yeah.
probably where you'd want to use it the most. And
Right,
otherwise,
right.
I think you probably put it best where you said it's just not what God intended.
Yeah, yeah. You're trying to retrofit something that wasn't supposed to be. So you're much better off styling your Blazor, your Angular, or your React HTML with
CSS
CSS
for sure.
that you bring in. So yeah. All right, let's do all of this in another episode where we start from a theming perspective, and then we bring it into native apps.
Let's do it.
Thank you for being with us here,
Yeah.
and take care. Be well, be productive, and we'll see you around on the next stream.
See you
All right.
later.